going on, everyone? Welcome back to this week's episode of Outside the Arena. I'm Griffin Senek, joined alongside my co-host Devin Bernstein. And Dev, it's been a little bit where we didn't skip a week, I wouldn't say, but we're recording a little later. But we have a ton to talk about today. A lot has been going on in all kinds of sports. We're going to be talking some MLB, some NBA, some college football, some NFL, as always. Heck of a week, and we're going to start things off. Unfortunate news as a Mets fan and a professional Yankee hater, but Juan Soto traded to the New York Yankees. Can't even believe it. Package going back to San Diego includes Michael King and a bunch of other pitching prospects, essentially. Soto, obviously, superstar player, does have one more year until free agency. Seems like he's likely going to test the market. Scott Boras is his agent as well. His clients have generally tested the market, but obviously, if he likes his time with the Yankees, they've got the finances to pay him. So no reason to believe that this could not be where Juan Soto spends the rest of his career. Obviously, huge news. Yankees coming off a very disappointing year. Your initial reactions to the trade and kind of where you think the Yankees stack up now going into next season.
Yeah, it feels like the whole thing about the Yankees last year was once they lost Judge, they just didn't have any good hitters, and now this is obviously one of the best hitters in the MLB. You probably have two of the top five guys. It's hard to say, but two top five level hitters at the very least. And these are both guys who you're not going to want to pitch to either one of them. They both walk a ton, especially Soto. Soto's got some of the best plate discipline in the league, probably the best.
Yeah.
And I just don't even know what obviously the rest of the lineup has to figure itself out, but this is the makings already of a very, very loaded lineup. You just need to find other good starters, and they do have they're paying a lot of players, but they also can pay whoever they want if they really want to. So, I don't know how much more they'll go in, but I expect them to at least make some additions along the edges and fill this roster out, because there's no point in trading for Juan Soto if you're not committed to spending like this. Especially like you said, he's probably going to test the market. The time to win and be competitive is now, but you don't want to have a lackluster season with him heading to free agency. I think in terms of where they stack up, I still think you look at the Rangers and they're probably looking like a better team still, probably still with the Astros. Orioles, hard to say. Rays, hard to say, but they're in a tough division, so it's going to be a dogfight. I expect them to be a playoff team, probably as long as Judge and Soto stay healthy, just because of the top end talent there. But if they're one of the top teams, I wouldn't be surprised, but I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if they aren't. Yeah. What about you, Griff?
Yeah, I think it's a great trade. Obviously, they gave up a lot if this does end up being just one year, but at the same time, this is a team, a franchise that, they expect greatness and they haven't really achieved that in a long time. They haven't been to a World Series since, I guess, 2009. So a move that had to be made. And my biggest fear is that he just stays long term. I think that's just a nightmare scenario. But regardless, looking at their team for next year, they also went out traded for Alex Verdugo. So two solid outfield additions. We saw this team, like you said, when Judge went down, they were playing a bunch of no names. They were running out Billy McKinney out there, Jake Bowers, all these random journeyman level players out there, which is just not what you're accustomed to seeing from the New York Yankees. So huge moves in that regard. They also acquired Trent Grisham, so just instantly outfield depth, huge help. They're still linked with Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who it looks like he's going to get $300 million, which is insane. The Mets are in on him too, Red Sox, Blue Jays, maybe a lot of big name teams. So it's unclear at this point where Yamamoto is going to go. Seems like that's probably the only other big free agent the Yankees would kind of be willing to cash out a check for. If they do get him, oh my God, this team, a punch of Cole, 1-2 punch of Cole, Yamamoto, and then, Rodon, what are you going to get out of him? I mean, if they get like all-star level Carlos Rodon, let's say without Yamamoto, that's even huge. Like for me, it's just, I think the lineup, like you said, is going to be much improved. They've still got a lot of veterans there, like DJ LeMahieu's not in his prime. Can he still put together a solid season? 100%. Anthony Rizzo, same thing. Seems like he was like concussed for like 2 months last year. They didn't realize it. I mean, that's a mess in its own, but
Yep.
hopefully he'll be back to full form this year. Stanton, I think, might just be kind of cooked at this point. But regardless,
Yeah.
you got all these guys. It's going to come down to the pitching. Garrett Cole coming off a Cy Young year. He's a superstar, obviously. But the rest of that rotation is where you kind of get into the question marks. What's Nestor Cortez got in the tank? He had a down year last year, injury prone, injury plagued as well. Obviously, Carlos Rodon, as bad of a first season as you could have on that contract. Can he bounce back? You lose Michael King. Obviously, losing Luis Severino to the Mets, I don't think is anything Yankee fans are going to be upset about. But, I feel like there's someone I'm missing. But even if I'm not, they got to go out and probably add another starter or two regardless. It feels like, they're going to need, a few guys for that back end of the rotation. And I think another frontline guy wouldn't be bad as well. So it'll be interesting to see. Like you said, I think this team, like if they stay healthy, their lineup's going to be one of the best in baseball. Just with Soto and Judge in it of itself, their bullpen's always good. So I think this team's going to be really good next year. Their division, like you said, it is kind of a mess. Not a mess. It's just really good. But like I can't predict like the Orioles or the Rays at this point to be better than them. I just
Yeah.
don't think. Like if I had to say right now, I'd probably say the Yankees win the division. But like it's a gauntlet, and like Shohei could go to the Blue Jays. Like his market's still unclear. So I think a lot can change between now and when we're making official predictions in March. But huge move for the Yankees. Props to them for going out and doing it. It's going to be must see baseball, man. Soto and Judge back to back. I mean, it's going to be electric for sure. So not excited to see it, but as a baseball fan, I think it'll be fun to watch. So yeah.
Yeah. Real quick, do you have any Otani predictions?
I've thought he's going to go to the Dodgers the whole time. So I feel like there's no way he doesn't. Now there's the whole thing with his free agency though. That's like, well, he wants it to be private, and you hear
Yep.
Dave
And
Roberts
then
like leaking it, and it's like, oh my God, like what are we doing, Dave Roberts? And then the GM's like, oh, I don't know why he said that. It's like, there was Buster Olney said something like, Shohei's free agency. This should be one of like, could be so big for the sport, kind of like the LeBron decision almost was, or something like that. Where I do think it'd be fun. It's just not who Shohei is, but I would still pick the Dodgers. The Blue Jays are getting a lot of buzz, which is
yeah.
interesting. Like I would not have predicted that. Um, I don't know. I just don't see him going to Toronto personally,
Yeah.
but maybe you say he could be. Like the more I've heard too, like the Angels seem like they're still kind of in the mix too. Like weirdly enough, like he's just a guy who really is routine based and maybe just doesn't want to leave. Like it's going to be really interesting to see. Also, the contract, I'm very curious to see what the number ends up being because seems like it's still going to be 500 mil plus, which is kind of crazy. Um, but I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. What do you think?
I I don't know. I I always got the sense that he was just gonna like weirdly re-sign with the Angels. Like
Okay.
I I don't know why. I just always felt like they were like he just like you said with the routine and like he's not.
Yeah.
I think he really does care about winning, but I don't think he's the type of guy that's like I want to go win somewhere else. I think he wants to. I don't know. I think if the Angels offer him a contract that's you know close to what other teams offer him, and of course close could still mean a difference of about 50 million here. Um, but just a relatively close offer. I get the sense maybe he goes back, but like I was thinking Dodgers too, but then I was like, no way that Roberts thing doesn't come back to bite them.
That would be
Um,
crazy if it does, though. If he actually makes his decision based on Dave Roberts saying, like, yeah, we met with him, like he's obviously our top priority. Like, come on, man. Like that's just ridiculous if that happens, to be
yeah,
honest.
maybe I'm speculating into the Twitter stuff too much. But
No, I'm not disagreeing. That was more like
no, I
that's what
know it's just
Shohei is. Like, what are you doing, man? Like that's just like
yeah.
I mean,
I
yeah.
really I don't know. it feels like it could be anywhere. That's why I asked, honestly. I feel like I have no idea where he's going, and it feels like a decision's coming relatively soon.
Yeah,
Um,
the media's been trying to hype that up. It's actually funny. Like they've been like, "Oh, it's coming within the week by the end of the winter meetings." Now it's like any day now. Like I actually don't know. Like who knows when he's going to sign? Could a mystery team swoop in and steal him? Like maybe the Yankees just go all out. Oh my God! Imagine if they signed Shohei. That would
it would
be
be unfair.
crazy. That
Yeah.
would be nuts. That would be actually nuts. Now that I put that in the universe, I actually am scared. So we're just gonna forget I said that. But yeah. All right. Well, we'll move along. When more MLB stuff. There's been some other signings, but I mean, I don't think anything necessarily that we have to get into. So we're going to jump over to the NBA. Haven't talked about the NBA in a little bit, but the in-season tournament is, really, it's in the semifinals now. They're in Vegas. You got the Pacers and the Bucks, and then the Pelicans and the Lakers squaring off. So kind of interesting. It feels like you got like two of the, you know, probably championship favorite type teams, and then two of these more younger kind of, pesky teams. I know the Pelicans have kind of, they've had their core for a little bit. Pacers, at least a younger, fun team to watch. Tyrese Halliburton's been balling out. I mean, I think with this, we'll kind of like, who do you think ultimately wins out of those four teams? Who do you think, you can go matchup by matchup and then predict the finals, or just the finals champ? And then just also, I mean, I know there was a lot of confusion and kind of uncertainty about this tournament, but it seems like, a lot more people have bought into it and are enjoying it. So just kind of your overall thoughts now that we are, towards the end of the first ever in-season tournament.
Yeah, I'll tell you about my prediction first. I think the Lakers take care of business. I think they're taking this really seriously, and like, they're in a one game type scenario, for the next two games. You just get the sense that LeBron's really going to go 100% and,
Yeah.
be a top five player in the world these next couple of games. Also unrelated, his over under is only 28.5 points on most sites right now. I feel like
28 or 20?
28, 28 and a half,
Okay.
which does feel a little high for the regular season, but if he treats it like a playoff game, maybe, I don't know, whatever. I don't know what I'm babbling about at this point, but um and then I really do like the Pacers. I think they're a really good team, but I just think the Bucks are not, they're just not going to have any answers for Giannis in that game. And I think again, it's like a one game scenario. I could see the Bucks kind of treating it like a playoff game. Um but I really want to talk about this in-season tournament. Like, it's so cool. Like, I mean, first of all, you got the players on the bench who want the 500K, so they're going absolutely crazy. That's the coolest part, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Like the Pacers guys, they were going crazy. And then the fans, like for whatever reason, it's just like it's a playoff game to them. Like
Yeah.
from the third quarter on, it basically feels like you're getting like the fans on their feet chanting defense. And it's like this never used to happen in the regular season. Like, maybe, the Knicks a few years ago when they were good for the first time in forever and they were like trying to clinch the playoffs. Like, maybe that had a similar vibe, but like it's rare you get a playoff atmosphere in the regular season. And we're just getting these games all because of the in season tournament. And like you said, like there's a lot of confusion. And I get that. Like, not everyone is going to take a couple hours to really understand what's going on in the in-season tournament, and you also have to watch it and learn about the rules and the group play to really like understand everything that's going on. Like, I'm not blaming people for being confused the first year, but the more you get to learn about it, the more it's just like, yeah, like this is just like a good way to increase competitive play. it I didn't realize it was this early in the regular season that it would be ending. So like I thought it went on maybe
Yeah.
slightly more throughout the regular season, which is, whatever. It could have I really like the format that we have right now though. It's like it's really entertaining first couple months of the year. It's something to look forward to in the early part of the basketball season before these games really mean a ton, in terms of the standings. Once you get later in the year, you get games that's like, well, if they win this game, they're probably not going to be a top three seed or whatever. But we don't have that early in the year, obviously. So I really like what the in-season tournament is doing, and I'm really excited for these games tonight as we film them.
Yeah, it's been I think it's been great for basketball. I think, the NBA, I'll be 100% honest. Like the last few years, like I've kind of grown out of watching the NBA because, the regular season at this point has just been like, not that like, I mean, I'm a huge baseball fan. The regular season is basically meaningless, but like, I don't know, for it not being my top sport, like the regular season is just kind of, I don't want to say tough to watch, but it's just like for the average fan, I think, when you've got all these stars sitting out due to load management or whatnot, and just like the effort's just not really there sometimes, like it's just been a little tough. And I think this is so great because, like you said, it's just like early in the season, high intensity. The fans are into it. The players have really gotten into it, which I think has helped so much. And it's just like created such a fun vibe. I think, you see, I think the whole element of going to Vegas, I think, is gotten a lot of players excited. You see, like Brandon Ingram and Zion are like laughing in the post game presser about it. I mean, guys are just loving it. So I think that's been really cool to see. I think it's been a great idea. I think the execution has been great. I think the only thing that they could have improved on was just at the start, like, because I think everyone was so confused right away when it's like, okay, like we're 4 games in and it's like we're playing the tournament now. Like, I think I was very confused. I didn't really understand, and maybe that's just me.
No,
But
I was confused with how early it started as well.
it's a little like I think Adam Silver could have, explained it a little better, put a little slideshow maybe together on the NBA Instagram page or something. But regardless, I think they've done a great job. It's been fun to watch. It'll be interesting to kind of see how like over time the tournament is like valued. Just in
Yeah.
obviously it's not a championship, but it's like what is it like? How does it equivalate to like a division title, which doesn't really matter that much in the NBA compared to some other sports. I don't know. That'll be interesting. But going to the games itself, yeah, like you said, I think the Lakers are probably the team that I'd take to win it all. I just feel like, you know, LeBron, like you said, like I think he's got that drive. He wants obviously this is another thing where, it's his chance to kind of be the first to do it and, just his whole, identity not identity, but his whole like not to say this is a big thing for his legacy, but I think it'd be for I'm sure he's thinking like this would be, pretty cool to be the first ever in season tournament, get, that under my belt, say that, I got one of those before he retires because he doesn't have that many years left. So I think he'll want it. Like you said, Bucks Pacers, I think will be a good game, man. I think Halliburton has just been a killer. I mean, he's kind of taken the league by storm this year. He's a star. If only the Knicks picked him a few years back. Sorry, Knicks fans. But uh yeah, I don't know. Pacers Bucks, I actually think will be a closer game than people think. I've kind of bought it. I kind of want the Pacers to win it all. They're just kind of a fun team right now. But I'll go Lakers win it all. I think it'll be good. I'm still a little confused on the scheduling, how it all worked out, because then there's still games. Like I don't really the scheduling aspect of it, I haven't looked too much into, which is part of the problem why I'm confused. But the fact that they've pulled this off, I mean, props to them. It's been fun to watch. So excited for the games later today.
Yeah, no, the scheduling is confusing. As someone who consumes maybe as much NBA media as there is, um, I haven't seen anything about like how they figured out these extra games, like the games that were yesterday. There was like 12 or 13 games. It might have been every team that's not still in the in-season tournament played or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it's like it was like, East Group C second place against East Group B third
Yeah.
place, like whatever, something like that. But I don't know. Moving on to college football. I'm sure, yeah, no one's gonna disagree with anyone's opinions here. I think the ultimate thing is like obviously 5 teams deserve to get in this year. Like it was just a year where there were 5 teams that clearly had playoff resumes, and one of them had to miss out. Like it really sucks. It was always weird that there were 5 Power 5 conferences and 4 spots in case there was a year where every conference had a very, very clear playoff candidate and one of them actually had 2. But um I mean, it's just really tough. Like if you want to argue that it should be the undefeated team that has no blemish on their resume, I'll hear you out. If you want to argue that it should be the best 4 teams, I'll hear you out. If you want to argue that it's should be a combination of the best 4 and the most 4 deserving, which I think is kind of what they came up with, because if they really wanted to go with the best 4 teams, you're probably putting in Georgia instead of Washington. Obviously, not to say they should have done that. I'm just saying if that was their only goal,
Yeah.
I think they got it as right as you could have. Like, I just think you're getting two really entertaining games, in my opinion, or really games that really have the potential to be really entertaining. But you're also including four teams that truly did deserve to make it. They all won their conference. One of them only lost to another team that made it, and then the only team that has a reasonably bad loss in Texas beat Alabama. So again, it's really tough. Like, this was not easy. We were talking about this, like, when it was happening. It's like, I don't even know what's better, like the chaos of the 14 playoff, or I guess the fairness of the 12 team playoff. I do think 12 is a little bit too much. I think, like, it's rare that we're gonna see teams 9 through 12 really have a chance. But I think this year, for example, you'd be getting like Ohio State against, potentially like Oregon in the first
Yeah.
round, like something like that. Like, that could be really cool. Um, I'm kind of going on. I don't want to keep going on here, but like, it's really interesting. This has been my favorite season of college football that I can remember. Like, it's just I'm not someone. I mean, obviously, I go to Syracuse. I'm root for Syracuse, but if teams that can't make the playoff, I don't really investment in any team, and I'm kind of just able to watch and just hope for the best product. And I think we're getting a really good product this year. I spent a lot of time just like wondering about who should get in, what's right, and I think that's good for the sport. So, it's weird that it's the last year of this and probably the best year of this format. But I think it goes to show that maybe this new format could be even better once, where there is no debate of which top team should have to miss out.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think going to your point about the 12 teams being too much, I agree. I feel like I don't know why they didn't do 8 teams. I mean, 8 teams
Yeah.
I think would have been perfect. I guess the
Yeah.
12 allows them to do their whole, you have the first round of games at on college campus, which I do think is cool. Um, but yeah, I think it sucks for Florida State, like, it going undefeated and not making the playoff, especially in, like, you had, like, a team like a Cincinnati, who went undefeated that one year, and, like, if you didn't put them in, like, if there were more 4, like, Power 5 schools in ahead of them, like, I would've gone it. Their ACC, they beat LSU, they beat Florida, they beat, Clemson, they beat, Duke with Riley Leonard, Miami, like, they had good wins. It's not like they played some like ridiculously easy schedule. But I think they made the right decision, the committee. Ultimately, Alabama won the SEC. They beat the Georgia team that hasn't lost, had won 29 games, I think, in a row it was. Obviously their one loss to Texas, who's the number 3 team in the committee's eyes. Um, you know, they had good wins as well. I get it, and like you just got to look at the Jordan Travis injury. If he doesn't get hurt, their Florida State's probably in. They probably beat Louisville by more than they did. I also think that Louisville game just didn't help. They really struggled to put any good drives together. It was just a punt fest, and ultimately the committee's looking at it going, do we really want to pair this team up and just see a blowout, or put Alabama in and know we're going to have a good game? So look, they made the right decision. This year, you bring up like 5 teams, like you look at like even like Georgia and Ohio State, like in a normal year, would have like very strong cases to be in the playoff. Like both those teams, only one loss was to, a team in the playoff, uh, you know, had quality wins in there. So it's crazy how deep it is where Ohio State and Georgia, like in a normal year, they'd at least be like, oh, maybe they can sneak in the 4 spot. But it was like, no, not even a shot, which is crazy. But that just shows how good this year's been, like you said. Um, you know, and I think we got 2 really good games. I think Washington, Texas is going to be a fun one. Huge for both those programs. I believe both of their first times in the college football playoff, if I'm not mistaken.
Washington made it with, Bengals known good starter Jake Browning.
They did make it? Really?
Yeah,
Interesting.
I
Huh. Okay.
I just like weirdly remember watching that game at a hotel in Guadalupe. So
Oh,
they
there you
definitely
go.
made the playoffs one year.
Okay, so Washington's second time, and Texas is first, so it should be very good. Obviously, those games are not going on for another month or so. So, we don't really have to get into predictions too much. I don't think. I mean, early quick predictions. No reasoning. I'll go Alabama. What about you?
Um, yeah, same actually.
Okay. Well, congrats to Michigan and Texas. Then looking
Yeah.
forward to that championship game. Um, yeah, it should be good. I'll actually be at. Speaking of Florida State, I'll be watching their last game of the season against Georgia. I'll be at the Orange Bowl. So shout out if any of the boys are fans and want to come on the pod. We can figure something out there at the live at the Orange Bowl. But moving on, I guess. Unless you have anything else to add.
Texas Michigan next year is week 2, so that's gonna be cool. But yeah, we can move on.
They play
They play
next
week
year.
2 next year.
Okay, interesting. That'd
Yeah.
be great. Maybe the script is out for that, so you have a championship rematch.
Championship rematch, yeah.
Damn, so Michigan's going to be in the gauntlet next year. Okay, props to them for actually scheduling some real games out of the
Yeah.
conference next year.
Yeah.
Um, Not Bowling Green 4 times. All right, moving on to the NFL. It's been a little bit, I guess, since we've talked. Really, I mean, we didn't predict last week. We recapped week 12. But a huge week last week. I mean, there were some big games. I think we should kind of touch on a few of the main ones. I mean, to me, I think there's really two main games, and they both involve, it's two big NFC showdowns. The first being Dallas and Seattle on Thursday night. This was a great game. Devin, this Dallas offense, just moving on. I mean, we've never seen Dak play this good. We've never seen this offense at such a high level. I mean, it feels like they're scoring 30, 40 points easily every single game, no matter the opponent. They go out, beat Seattle. Obviously not the best defensive game for Dallas, but, I know you're maybe a little biased, but, your thoughts on the way Dallas is playing right now just seems like they're firing on all cylinders offensively.
Yeah, no, this hurts. I mean, I gotta give Dak credit. He's playing like an MVP. I really didn't see this level of play coming from Dak. It started about like 5, 6 weeks ago, and like his stats, like I keep seeing it every week, and it's like, wow. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, and I talk about this every time we bring up the quarterback stats, but you look at a quarterback stats and you have to take the whole situation into account. And he has great stats and he has a good supporting cast, but he doesn't have this Hurts level supporting cast, but he has way better stats than Jalen Hurts. I mean, you got to give him credit. He has a true wide receiver 1. I mean, Cooks is good. Ferguson's a good tight end. He has a good line. Like, I'm not saying it's this horrible situation he's in, but he's not getting carried by this offense or putting up fake numbers besides, maybe some blowout numbers. But I don't think it's like stat padded at all. Like,
No.
this is incredibly impressive. This is the best stretch of football easily in his career. Like you said, like, hats off to him. The defense, I'm holding out that it's a little fraudulent. We finally saw Deron Bland get attacked, which
Cooked.
I've kind of been waiting for / expecting / hoping for.
He still had a pick though, which is insane.
You did still have a pick in
He's
true.
8 this season.
Yeah, he's baby Diggs, man. He's baby Diggs.
It's crazy.
Yeah, no. So I'm not trying to discredit him. He has incredible ball skills, but he can get beat. And obviously he got beat by like DK Metcalf. Like, what are you gonna do? Like,
Yeah.
DK Metcalf is so physically talented. You almost can't blame a guy for, he was staying with him for the most part and he ended up winning. Like you said, he got a pick. So you can't really blame him, but he got targeted a lot. Gilmore, he's probably not a true number 1, but the problem really is more like the middle of the field seemed pretty open. I don't know. It's just been a lot of weeks where they've given up more points than their talent shows. I still think this is a top 3 to 5 pass rush and probably a top 5 to 8 defense, but you saw that against a lot of top teams they've played this year, it hasn't been elite. So obviously a huge, huge, huge matchup this week between the Cowboys and the Eagles. We'll get more into that, but yeah, I mean, there's nothing else to say. I'm going on too long. We said we wouldn't, but Yeah, no, Cowboys are really good. Dak's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. CD's had a great year. I think we've just seen this Dallas offense hit a new gear, which has been, I don't think most people would have said with Mike McCarthy calling the plays, Kellen Moore leaving in the offseason. So shout out to Mike McCarthy. I mean, he's doing a great job down there.
Absolutely.
Let's move on to the other NFC East team, though. Not the same result for them. I mean, Dev, I know it hurts, but I don't know if I've ever seen a greater backing up of trash talk than Debo Samuel this week. I mean, 3 touchdowns, 100, 40-ish total yards. I mean, bro was just him out there. And, the Niners have talked a lot since that conference game. They talked about, oh, if we had Brock, we're blowing him out, like all these things. And look, they put their money where their mouth is, and they blew Philadelphia out in Philly. I mean, to me at least, I think you got to say San Fran's the best team in the NFL after this game. What were your
Agreed.
thoughts? Obviously, a rough one for Philly.
Yeah, no, this is not a fun NFL week for me. But yeah, I mean, the Niners look like the far and away best team right now. Like, I really, really do hope this Eagles team gets to see them again in the playoffs because I'm not gonna lie, if it's at home, I am still gonna pick the Eagles in that game. But you know, the Niners do look way better than everyone else right now. I don't even think the Eagles played that badly. Like, they're missing, Zach Cunningham. They just signed Shaq Leonard. The secondary's still figuring some stuff out. But like I've talked about James Bradbury being a problem all year. He didn't get targeted once, and it was still a disaster in the secondary. Like there are a lot of weak links. Slay, I love you, Darius Slay. You're not as good as you used to be, man. It's really tough. It's like I don't want to harp on the guy. He's 33, but this team kind of went into the season hoping he and Bradbury could hold up really well, and they haven't held up really well. That's been a big thing, and then the injuries have also been an issue. But I think this Eagles team kind of rights the ship this week. We'll get more into that in our predictions, but um yeah, the Niners just look incredible. Like, do you see any team like could you see a Super Bowl where it's like the Niners just blow the other team out? Like I could see that.
Yeah, totally. I think 100%. I think especially when you look at the AFC right now, like the AFC is like a mess. Like honestly, like whoever comes out of there, I think we've kind of talked about it. Like I think Philly, Dallas, or San Fran takes down whoever comes out of the AFC this year. Like I don't see one of those AFC teams. I mean, we'll talk about the Chiefs in a little bit. They look like a mess. I mean, I don't really believe the Ravens to beat one of those teams. I don't know. But yeah, this game, I mean, I think San Fran, they went through that rough patch where they lost 3 in a row. They were kind of banged up. They're healthy. Brock Purdy's playing insane. CMC does this thing week in and week out. This defense, I mean, it's just a great unit. And they only had, I guess, Kinlaw had 2 sacks. They had 3 sacks. I don't think they forced any turnovers. Like, it wasn't anything, flashy on the stat sheet, but they just got the job done. They held Philly to 19 points and let their offense work. And like you said, definitely a little concerning, defensively for Philly. That's kind of been something that has been a, potential problem all year we've seen. I mean, we've seen teams like, not to, shit on like Washington, but Washington, putting up 31 points both times against Philly, like it's definitely concerning.
Yeah.
Um, so, and it just seems like, I mean, these last 2 weeks, they have 34 to the Bills, 42 to the Niners. And like, sure, those are two of the best teams in the NFL, but at the end of the day, if you want to win a Super Bowl, those are the kind of teams you're going to be playing in the playoffs. So, their defense just has not held their own against these top teams. Definitely concerning. Because on paper, I mean, you're like, oh, this defense should be great. And they've brought in all these guys. They brought in Kevin Byard, Shaq Leonard's now going to be there. I mean, if you showed me this Eagles defense like 2 years ago, I'd be like, holy hell, like what the hell happened here? How did they get, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, all these guys too? But it just hasn't lived up to the standard I think people were expecting. So they got to fix things. Obviously, offensively, I'm not necessarily worried. I think, is Jalen still hurt? I guess probably, right? He's still dealing with a knee issue. So, I mean, I know they're fighting for that number one seed, but at some point, do you just give the guy a week or two to try and get a little healthier towards the end of the season? I guess it kind of depends on what kind of happens down the stretch. But um, that offense has been great. AJ Brown's a superstar. Devonta Smith's looked better these last few weeks. Their O line obviously elite. So yeah, I'm kind of just yapping at this point, but yeah, I think San Fran, with their win last week, kind of stapled themselves as the top team in football. So will be interesting to see how that kind of looks the rest of the way.
Yeah. You want to move into the previews?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, a real fun one tonight as we film this. I think I'm assuming by the time it'll probably be tomorrow by the time this gets out. Um, so we don't have to go too far into this. I'm going Steelers. It's going to be low scoring. No one's going to be able to score. I'm going to be watching basketball. Yeah.
I'm not watching this game. No, unless you have fantasy implications this week, there's just no reason to put this game on television. Like you can watch the NBA in-season tournament, you could watch a movie, you could do nothing, and I think it'd still be more entertaining than this football game is going to be. Um, yeah, I'm picking the Steelers. I mean, the Patriots are just terrible. Ramondre's out. Like it's just like, oy, oy, but they're going to probably end up with Caleb Williams. So there's that for them, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. Moving on. Texans at Jets. I mean, this Dell, man, so heartbreaking. I mean, I had him in like all my fantasy leagues too, so even worse. But this guy's so fun to watch, and it's on a blocking play that he just like breaks his leg pretty much or fractures his fibula. Um, just so sad. But that's the game they play, man. It's Zach Wilson again this week. I mean, who would have thought that, maybe I know Zach Wilson's not great, but maybe just maybe that part of the big problem is that the O line is a bunch of guys basically off the street, and the wide receivers outside of one guy all suck and pretty much were undrafted this past year. Who would have thought, man, that would be the problem? This shit is so stupid. I'm going with the Texans. I don't know if it's a blowout because the Jets defense is pretty good, but they should win pretty comfortably. I don't really see the Jets. Maybe Zach Wilson airs it out though. I mean, honestly, like at this point, he should be going in there being like, "Fuck it, I am just throwing this shit how far I can every single play." Like the Jets, literally, like that's what's so frustrating. I don't understand these NFL teams that it's like the Panthers. Why are they not just like going for it and chucking it? Like these teams should not be sticking to like some boring ass game plan that hasn't worked for like 12 games. Like let's see what this guy's got, even if it's, even if you get blown out because of it, you're getting losing and blown out anyway. It's like, I don't know. I saw someone say that like Zach Wilson should just be letting it rip. And it's like, why hasn't like he should have been, obviously when you're still in playoff contention, I guess you don't want to be too reckless. But at this one, it's like they have nothing to lose for letting, the game plan kind of go out the window and just being like, Garrett Wilson's running deep, like get the ball to him and like let's see what happens. So sorry for a little rant there. I'm picking the Texans.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I agree with your point, and I'm also going with the Texans. Like, I think you hit the nail on the head when you're like, maybe it's not a blowout, but you feel like the Texans win comfortably. Like, they probably won't score a ton of points, but they're probably going to score like 24, and that just seems like way too much for the Jets to match. So, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
going.
I think it's going to be one of those games where like it will feel like the Jets are never in it. That's the
Yeah,
thing. It's maybe not a typical blowout on the stat sheet, but the Jet, it's like from the kickoff, it's going to be like, oh, this game's over. Rams at Ravens. The Rams 6-6 now. I believe they might hold, or maybe the Packers overtook them, but I think they're like right there for a playoff spot.
I think they
Um,
hold it. Yeah.
yeah, I mean they since Kyron Williams has come back the last 2 weeks, 37 and 36 points. Um, that also corresponds with Cooper Kupp getting healthy. Puka Nakua is obviously still there. You know, I mean, they're balling out right now. Obviously, a tough task this week with Baltimore. Um, coming off a bye, I believe. Uh, yeah, coming off a bye, they beat the Ravens or the Chargers on whatever it was, Sunday or Monday Night Football. I think Sunday night. Your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think the Rams have played really well since Kyron's come back, like you said, but this Ravens defense is just really good. I think, when the key for this Rams offense is, does Stafford have time? Because if Stafford has time, guys are going to get open. He's going to hit them on time and on target. Like, that's not my question. But I feel like the Ravens are just going to blitz the crap out of Stafford. And, he's a really good quarterback, but he's not super athletic. He's not going to be able to just, make plays with his feet necessarily. So it's going to be a lot of dump offs or him taking a huge hit and trying to get the ball out. Like, just a lot of things that aren't ideal for this Rams offense. So unless they can find a way to get him some time, I just don't see them beating this Ravens team. So I'm going with the Ravens. What about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Ravens too. Like you said, I think it's in Baltimore as well, which, should play into this game a little bit. Um, I just think they're the better team overall. Like you said, the Rams have been balling out this week. It's just, a tough defensive matchup. Not that Cleveland wasn't, but another one in enemy territory. Um, yeah, I mean, I think you kind of described it well. I think the Ravens, you know, yeah, I mean, they're 9-3. They look like they'll probably end up with the one seed in the AFC, assuming they hold. But like, I don't know, man. I'm still. I think defensively they've really proved me wrong this year. They played really well, but offensively without Mark Andrews, I guess I'm just a little concerned. And we'll obviously see. I mean, they scored 20 points against the Chargers, and they're one full game without him this year. So we'll see kind of how it looks the rest of the way. I guess we got time before deciding if this team really is good enough to win a Super Bowl or not. So I'm not going to get into it more. I'll pick the Ravens though.
Yeah, moving along. Panthers, Saints, you. Um, yeah, I mean, I thought the Panthers would maybe show some life in their first game under an interim coach, but I yeah, no, they did not. Well, I guess they kind of kept it close against the Bucks, which isn't very impressive, but Bryce Young did look like a little bit better. It felt like it was more guys not being open and protection breaking down, which I guess is good, but it just goes to show how bad this situation is around him.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, for the Saints, they won last week. Yeah, they won. No. Sorry,
No, they
they
lost.
lost. They lost. They had a comeback effort. So
Yes.
I believe it's Jameis starting this week, which honestly, I really don't know if there's even that much of a difference between he and Carr.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going with the Saints. Jameis will make some plays, I guess. Uh, that's about all I have. I don't have anything to say about this.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Saints too. I mean, I think this is more just the Panthers suck than the
Yeah,
Saints are like good. Like the Panthers are terrible, like really, really bad. And like, man, that franchise is just being run through the ground, it feels like. I mean, they fire Frank Reich, which like I think it was like the second quickest head coach to be fired all time or something like that, which is nuts. Um,
yeah,
I don't know, man. I mean, I don't think he's necessarily the great coach, but I don't think sacking him right in the middle of the season was maybe the best move. But I don't know. Maybe they're looking just to find a spark. But yeah, it feels like almost that was like a move out of like just because CJ Stroud's been doing well. They've had all this
yeah,
press and narrative about like, oh, they should have went CJ Stroud on Bryce Young, and obviously the jury is still out on Bryce Young. It very well may be for a few years just with how bad this team is. But um, yeah, I'm going Saints here. No need to keep talking about this game.
yeah, absolutely.
All right, Colts Bengals. Colts are 7-5, man. I mean, they have been. Shane Steichen might be looking at a little coach of the year, a little coach of the year action here. They beat the Titans 31-28. Gardner threw for 312 yards. And on the flip side, the Bengals last week showing a lot of fight, beating Jacksonville 34-31. What a win that was. I mean, Jake Browning, you mentioned him a little earlier, talking about the Washington Huskies. He had 350 passing yards. Jamar Chase, 11 catches, 150 yards about. So a sneaky, like, on paper, it's like we're starting Jake Browning and Gardner Minshew, but like kind of could be a good game here. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Dev? Who wins this one?
Yeah, I don't know why I'm excited for this game at this point in the year with who's starting at quarterback. But like you said, like Steichen's really been a great offensive coordinator, or really great head coach, but like as the offensive coordinator has also been really great.
Yeah.
He just finds a way to make a quarterback comfortable, finds what works. Michael Pittman looks like a true like number one receiver. Josh Downs looks good. Pierce is a good complementary option. I'm just like wondering what would have happened if Richardson played this year. Like,
Yeah.
would they be like 9-3 right now or something? Like,
I feel like
obviously,
they'd be worse, honestly.
that's also possible. Now that you say that, I haven't thought about that. But I just, with the running ability of Richardson, like
Yeah.
if he was a Gardner level passer, like wow, this offense really could get super unlocked. Um, They don't seem to miss Jonathan Taylor, which seems to be a trend when running backs get hurt, unfortunately. Um, I'm I'm going with the Bengals because I think their defense
Okay.
is better, and I don't think the Colts defense is going to be able to prevent another good week from Jake Browning. Why am I saying that? But I guess I'm going with the Bengals here. What about you?
I'm gonna go with the Colts. I mean, I feel like this has been one of the most slept on teams. Obviously, they don't play in a great division, but they're 7-5. Like you gotta give them credit where credit's due. They've been without JT for most of the year. Richardson obviously went down, but Gardner Minshew has balled out this season. I mean, he is, you gotta wonder, does he find like a Baker Mayfield type starting job next year, like on one of these teams? Um, I guess it's this draft class is also pretty like deep. It should be at least. So maybe that's not the case. Maybe, one of these teams would just rather, start a JJ McCarthy next year if that's the route they end up going. Um, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But they've been playing well, and I think Zach Moss is in for a big game this week. I think Pittman's going to continue to ball out, and this team kind of just weirdly finds ways to win. So I do think, as great as Jake Browning was, I'm expecting a bit of a drop off this week. I just think, looking at the quarterbacks, Gardner, not that he's like some proven stud, but he's started enough games in the league to where kind of what you're going to expect. Whereas Jake Browning, I still feel like this could be kind of an outlier for him when we see him kind of revert to kind of how he did. I guess they played Pittsburgh that game, which is a very tough matchup, but I get to see more towards a Pittsburgh performance than a Jacksonville one this week. So I'm gonna go with the Colts for my pick.
Absolutely. Moving on, we got Bucks Falcons, an important game in this really, really, really bad NFC South. Um, I mean, I guess I'll give a little bit credit to Desmond Ritter for not looking absolutely horrible against the Jets defense. You know, I guess we've seen a lot
120
less.
yards, man. Yeah.
Oh, okay, it was bad. Okay, I didn't realize it was that bad. I don't know. I guess my judgment of Desmond Ritter is when I watch him on Red Zone, does he throw like multiple interceptions? And that didn't. But the Falcons they have some juice on offense. Jesse Bates is like really, really, really good.
All pro, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, probably an all-pro season. So I'm just gonna go with them. They just have like slightly more juice, but I wouldn't be surprised if this goes either way.
I'm gonna go with the Bucks. I think I don't know. I just feel like the Bucks have played so much better than the Falcons this year, but somehow the
That's true.
Falcons have the better record. I mean, the Falcons did beat the Bucks when they played earlier in the year, but um, I don't know. I just feel like the Bucks have been the better team, weirdly enough. Like Mike Evans has had a heck of a season. Rashad White's really come alive these last few weeks. Um, Baker hasn't been terrible. So, it's weirdly been a decent year. Like, I don't know. It's so weird with them because they're like records bad. They've also had a tougher schedule, I think, than the Falcons. I mean, they've played the Eagles, the Lions, the Bills, Texans, who are pretty good, the Niners. So there's been some really tough matchups in there. Down the stretch, you got Falcons, Packers, who have kind of come alive, Jags, Saints, Panthers. So kind of a mixed bag there. So we'll see if they can pull this division out. Obviously, huge game this week to where, if Atlanta wins, it almost feels like, they probably got the division. Not necessarily, but they'd be in a good spot. So I'm going to go with the Bucks, though. I think they've just been the better team this year, despite the record.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next game, Jags at Cleveland. I don't believe Trevor Lawrence is going to play. If he plays on a high ankle sprain one weekend, that'd be pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
I don't expect him to play. So who is their backup again?
DJ Beathard.
CJ Beathard. So we're going to see CJ Beathard versus, I believe, Joe Flacco should be the starter for Cleveland this week, who kind of looked good last week. Um, Jacksonville. I mean, this is a huge game. Cleveland's got to figure it out. They've now lost two in a row. They do have the Bears and the Jets and the Bengals still on the schedule. So, the path is there. But at home, I'm going to pick the dog pound, man. I'm going to pick the Browns. I think, the fan base, I think is going to be fired up. They know this is a huge game, playoff implication wise. CJ Beathard, like, I don't know, against this Cleveland defense, I just think that's probably a recipe for a disaster, most likely. So I think this is a huge game for Cleveland. I think this is a get right game, kind of a blessing in disguise for them potentially if it's not Trevor Lawrence. And Joe Flacco, I think, obviously a Super Bowl champion, proven guy. We saw what he did last week. Like, yeah, he's not going to be a superstar, but he's probably going to be good enough to, get you a win in this game, in my opinion. So I'm going to go Browns. Probably a low scoring game, but I just don't think CJ Beathard against that defense is going to be able to do much.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Browns too. I think, like you said, it feels like a big bounce back week for the Browns defense. Garrett wasn't really himself last week from the tape I saw. Um, yeah, I think Flacco, like you said, he's not bad. He still throws a pretty nice deep ball. Like he had a couple of what are you doing balls, but that's to be expected. Like I feel like Dorian Thompson Robinson's going to give you that too, but he's probably not going to give you 20 snaps of good quarterback play, which is what Flacco will give you, about half the time he'll be a good quarterback. So, yeah, I think they should stick with Flacco and I think they should be able to win this one on their defense.
Yep. Moving along, Lions at Bears. I think this was actually a pretty decent game the last time these two teams played. Yeah, Lions barely won 31-26. Bears were actually in control for most of that game. This one's in Chicago, but I will pick the Lions. They had a good bounce back. I mean, it was a little close for comfort against the Saints, but good bounce back week from Jared Goff last week. I think they continue that against Chicago, who is coming off a bye. They won the game before, a very ugly one against Minnesota, but this Bears team, Justin Fields, trying to earn himself, a starting job next year. It'll be very interesting to see how he does down the stretch. But I will pick the Lions on this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Lions too. The main thing here is for the Bears, obviously. The main thing here is like how does Fields play? I I'm with you. I'm still not quite quitting Fields. Like I still just think he's a little bit too talented, has a little bit too much big playability to completely write off after year 3. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna go with the Lions. Like I said, like their offense is really good, and the Bears probably will be able to move the ball, score some points. I expect this to be like a 31-20 type game. I don't know. Yeah, I don't have too much to say. I think the Lions are slightly fraudulent in the
Yeah,
sense that their defense isn't going to be able to compete. Like, I just don't think they're a top 3 team in the NFC. I think they're pretty clearly fourth, but you know, it's
yeah. I
just
think
yeah,
no. Go
it's
ahead.
just not they're not quite a Super Bowl team. Would maybe
Yeah,
in the AFC to be honest, but not
yeah,
not in the NFC.
yeah. I think they're just a year away, is what it is. I think they just need a few more pieces. Need to have some guys take a next step. Um, Yeah, I like you said, like Fields, it's an interesting case. And I feel like this year we just haven't seen like last year there was all those explosive running plays, all these big highlight reel type plays, which we just haven't really seen this year. And
Yeah.
maybe that's just kind of like those plays are so weird sometimes where it's just like sometimes it's just like a string of those happens where he just was like, in a really bad spot somehow escaped and took off. Like those are not plays you see every day by anyone. But we haven't really seen any of those highlight reel S type plays from Justin Fields that we saw last year. So maybe we'll get them one this week now that we're talking about it. Hopefully we do. Um, Seahawks at Niners. This game happened like a week or two ago, it feels like. It did, yeah, November 23rd on Thanksgiving, where the Niners won 31-13. Uh, I mean, I'm picking the Niners. They put up that performance. They go and beat Philly in Philly like that. First game at home in a while. I think I don't even know. I think it'll be another kind of 2+ score victory for the Niners.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was gonna say. I think the one thing I've gotten much better at in my sports analysis over the years, as you've seen, Griffin, is my ability not to be biased. And I do not like this Niners team, but I'm very able to see that this is a really good team. And you know, I I think this is maybe an argument for another day, but I don't think Purdy's an MVP candidate, to be honest. I think he isn't the MVP of that offense. If you're going to pick the Niners, one of the guys from the Niners, I'm picking McCaffrey.
Yeah,
And in terms of quarterbacks, I'm taking Dak, I'm taking Mahomes, even I'm taking Stroud, and I'm probably taking Tyreek Hill as well. So he wouldn't be in
yeah,
my top 5. Neither would Hurts. And I just I think this has actually turned into a slightly better MVP race than I thought it was a few weeks ago, because Stroud now looks like a real MVP candidate. Dak looks like a real MVP candidate. Tyreek might put up 2,000 yards. McCaffrey's having an extremely dominant season. And then you have Mahomes, who has a really bad receiving core and is still, put up a top 5 to 10 offense in terms of efficiency. So I think there's 5 guys at least you can talk about before Purdy. I don't know where I got on this rant from. I really wasn't planning this, but if you have
You had
any
it
thoughts on
written
the
down, ready to go. No,
yeah.
I agree. I think I've seen a lot about non QB's probably never going to win an award the award the way it's going, and I agree. Like I think for me, like CMC and Tyreek Hill have been more valuable than any of these quarterbacks. Maybe Dak, I guess. I mean, look, if you actually like get really analytical with the name of the award, like most valuable player, like obviously like the way Patrick Mahomes is with those weapons, like he's probably the most valuable player. CJ Stroud, like yeah, those guys deserve to be there. Dak deserves to be there. Sure, but like also most valuable player like Tyreek Hill and CMC, like you said, like they're the engines of that offense. Like legitimately, they're both putting up insane seasons. I think you absolutely should be considering those 2 guys over a Brock Purdy. I mean, I think it's crazy that Purdy is the favorite. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. Not that Purdy's had a bad year. Now I'm actually curious to see his season stats, but let's see, 30. No, that's 23 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 3,100 passing yards. Like he's balling out. All right, I mean he's been balling out, but I don't think he's the MVP. I agree with what you said for sure. CMC is more valuable to that team than Brock Purdy for sure.
Yeah, moving on. I said I'm picking the Niners, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on, we got Niners, sorry, nope, Vikings, Raiders. Um, Vikings off a bye. The last we saw of Dobbs was pretty concerning,
Yeah.
but I have a feeling I really do have a lot of trust in this coaching staff. I think you're getting Jefferson back, which is going to be huge for Dobbs to have just a guy who's open all the time.
Yeah.
And then you have Addison, who's going to be the number 2 now, and then Hawkinson, who's the 3. So now that, the offense is pretty loaded again, and really it's all on Dobbs, and I really like Dobbs, but if this offense isn't performing, I think we kind of know what the reason is. I don't want to blame a career backup for being a career backup, but like, this is just what it is. You lost your quarterback. They're not going to be great unless Dobbs can play at a starter level, which is possible with this group. But I am still going to pick them. I just think the Raiders' magic sort of started to wear off a little bit with the interim coach. I still think they're in a much better spot than they were like 4 weeks ago. But it's Aiden O'Connell, man. Like Dobbs is definitely better than him. So I'm gonna go with the Vikings.
Yeah, I'm going with the Vikings too. Jett is back. I think this offense will be better. Like you said, like if it's not performing, like it's probably going to be, you got to blame Dobbs a little bit here. Uh, but yeah, I think they'll be better. I don't think the Raiders are very good. Aiden O'Connell, like it's just like I mean, every game is just like mediocre quarterback after mediocre quarterback. I mean, it's like I feel like we went into the season being like the level of quarterback play. Like there's never been more elite quarterbacks in the NFL, and now it's like I can't even find an elite quarterback on the schedule. It feels like it's crazy. But that's just injuries and whatnot. But it's weird, man. It's kind of crazy. But alas, we move on. Broncos at Chargers. Man, the Chargers are just a wreck right now. I mean, they beat New England 6-0. Austin Eckler looks broken. Not broken, he's just ass at this point. I mean, all that talk about an RB contract, and this guy probably shouldn't be making more than like the league minimum the way he's been playing.
Yeah.
Herbert, he just really hasn't been balling out. I mean, outside of Keenan Allen, it really feels like he almost has no weapons to throw to. Quentin Johnson's kind of been rough rookie year for him. Uh, you know, yeah, I don't know. But Denver, obviously, I think last week was their first loss in a while, or did they win again? They
No, they
lost to
lost.
Houston. Yeah. CJ Stroud, he just does it 7-5. Sorry, that was just slipped out. But I'm gonna go with I don't even know who I want to pick in this game. I'm gonna go with the Broncos. I think the Chargers are just a train wreck right now. They seem broken offensively. Defensively, they suck. So I think Russ and his defense can weirdly just get this one done. It's in LA too, so I mean, probably more Broncos fans there. I don't know how heavy they travel, but it's kind of close to LA, so I could see it being a good Broncos crowd there. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean certainly it won't be a big home field advantage for the Chargers, that's
No.
for sure. Um, yeah, no, I'm gonna go with the Broncos too. Just feels like they're better coached and they're not that much less talented. Um, this kind of feels like the year of coaching, man. Like, I'm not gonna
Yeah,
get too far into this, but it just feels like all the best teams are well coached and all the bad teams are poorly coached, and the talent matters, but it doesn't matter. There's a lot of teams not using their talent right.
100%.
But yeah, that's a big thing that I've taken away from this NFL season. But yeah, I'm going with the Broncos. Probably a pretty close game, probably pretty low scoring. Chargers defense has played a little bit better recently.
Yeah.
So hats off to Brandon Staley, I guess, but not really. He should get fired for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's gone.
Moving on. Ooh, this is a fun one. Bills Chiefs. I'm gonna be honest, I'm going with the Bills. Like, I feel like they got the I know I can see that look. You're like, oh, don't do it, Devin. But
No, no, I'm with you. I'm with you.
um, like it just feels like they're playing like good football. It seems like since they fired the offensive coordinator, they've kind of found their identity of this offense. A lot of Kincaid, a lot of Diggs, a lot of Gabe Davis as like a blocker, which has really worked. It just feels like they're like trying to do what works more, which it feels so simple. Like it feels like every NFL team should do what works best, but feels like the Bills have kind of found that the last few weeks and started to do that. And the Chiefs, like maybe it's dumb to pick against the Chiefs, predict them to, I think it would be 3 out of 4 losses, which like would be hard to see. But it just, I don't know. Something feels off right now. The defense is still really good, but as long as Josh Allen isn't turning the ball over, I think they're going to be able to move the ball better than the Chiefs. Maybe we get some Mahomes magic, maybe a big Kelsey day, Taylor Swift's in attendance, something like that. But I don't know. I'm going to go with the Bills. They're also, I think I said that this is a very, very big game for them and not necessarily as much for the Chiefs, although the Chiefs do want it for the 1 seed and seeding purposes, but they're not fighting for their playoff lives here. So
Yeah,
I'm going to go.
yeah, I'm going with the Bills too. Chiefs just do not look right offensively, and it's kind of what I can't say it's what we expected, but it's just like we look at that wide receiver list at the beginning of the year. It's like, what the hell did they think was going to happen? Like, it's like you're starting like MVS, a certified like a career like deep ball runner for like your wide receiver one, and they're like banking on Tony and Rasheed Rice has been pretty good, but like it's just like it's just frustrating, man. Like obviously, I know salary is an issue. You can't pay every single player in the world, but it's like they got to do something, man. Like they got to go out and whether it's draft a guy, trade him in the draft for one of these players, like an Addison or someone type like that in this year's draft, or they just got to do something because you cannot be giving Patrick Mahomes this little weaponry to work with. It's just it's a crime almost. I mean, it's crazy. I'm picking the Bills. Like I can't pick the Chiefs right now. I mean, they've lost 3 of 5 at this point, 2 of their last 3. Green Bay's a tough place to play. They kind of got screwed over on that, non-call DPI. That ended the game was a mess officiating wise, though.
Yeah.
But the way the Bills played in Philadelphia, I know they had the bye, but you just can't forget about that. Like that was the best we've seen Josh Allen play all year. The best we've seen him play in these last 2 games. He had played great against the Jets too. And like that's like that Eagles game was like the Bills. That's the Bills team that I think the media. I brought it up a lot on this podcast, but like that the media harps on is like this Super Bowl kind of team, and like if Josh Allen and that offense operates like that, like yeah, the sky's the ceiling for them. Like they can do whatever they want because they can compete with anyone offensively. Defensively, I think it's clear that they're a step down this year from past years. That I mean, kind of inevitable, and you've got all these kind of aging veterans. I mean,
Yeah.
I honestly I don't. I know Von Miller has not been a. I mean, besides the off the field stuff, been a shell of himself, if you could
Yeah.
even call it that, on the field this year. Hyde, Poyer are obviously still. I think they're both healthy. Maybe Poyer's hurt though. I might be wrong. I don't know.
I think one of them's hurt, but I know for a fact that Mike Hyde has been like certified bad this year.
Okay,
So
yeah. So there we go. And Trey White obviously is out. So yeah, it's just not been as good a defense. But I'll still pick them. I think the way that offense played, I think that they'll get it done. And oh, I feel like these games are always at Arrowhead. Like, have the Chiefs ever gone to Buffalo?
I was thinking that too.
Like I don't know, man. Pretty funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, week football, Eagles at Dallas. Is if Dallas wins, are they number one in the division?
No, we still
Okay.
have the tiebreaker.
Okay. Well, Skip Bayless tweets made me think that it was for some reason. But that's Skip
They
Bayless.
they have a very real chance, I guess, but I do think what I think happens is, oh, but then if the Niners, it's complicated because like if the Niners have the same record, then it becomes like the three-way tiebreaker as opposed to the division tiebreaker.
For the
So
division, you're saying, or for the number one seed?
for the number one seed. So,
Okay.
but I think even if the Eagles lose this game and then win out, I think they still win the division.
Okay. Interesting. Regardless, I mean, this is if the Eagles win this game, it feels like they'll probably win the division because they then have a 2-game lead plus tiebreaker on
Yeah.
Dallas. Um, in Dallas, the way these two teams playing, your thoughts, Steph?
I don't want to say it. I want to say it, Griffin.
No
Don't make
way.
I have
You're
to.
going for the reverse jinx, aren't you?
I'm going for the reverse jinx. I hope you join me so we can guarantee an Eagles win. Um, I mean, I hate it. I can't believe I've made it this long in the podcast without talking about how much I hate Dak's "Here we go" cadence. I
Here
mean,
we
it's the
go.
most annoying. You notice this at the line. He goes, "Yeah, here we go." Yeah, I cannot stand it. But he's playing really well. Mike McCarthy somehow is a good NFL coach. All my nightmares are coming true. Um, I just don't think this Eagles defense is going to be able to compete, and I think it's probably a high scoring game. Maybe the Eagles can, kind of just get the ball last type of deal, but I think the Cowboys defense has a Micah Parsons, has a Deron Bland. The Eagles defense, like outside of Hassan Reddick, like who's a true known NFL elite player at this point? It's like, most of the guys are either past their prime or not quite in their prime, which is fine. I think this Eagles defense will be much better next year and moving forward. I think they'll figure it out. But right now, you just have to look at the reality of the situation, which is that there aren't many great players on this Eagles defense. There are a few on the Cowboys defense, even if it's not, as good as it maybe was earlier in the year or as good as it maybe should be. It's still a good defense, I'd say. So I have to pick the Cowboys, man.
Wow. That's crazy. I have my pick going into the podcast. I'm gonna stick with it, and I'm picking Dallas as well. Um, it's at Dallas, which I do think plays a factor in this game. That place is gonna be going wild. I mean, it is gonna be, you know, crazy. I think, like you said, like we saw these teams match up a few weeks ago. Obviously, that's kind of it felt like when Dak started to kind of get in the groove a little bit, and he played really well that game. They low key should have won that game. I mean, I wouldn't say should have won. They didn't get screwed, but they shot themselves in the foot. I mean, they had the
Yeah,
ball at like
yeah.
the 5 yard line, I think, and then just started like false start. They took a sack, like all these stupid things. So clearly it was their fault, but they had the game right there. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Um, so, and looking at the way the Eagles has kind of gone since then, like last week was not good. I think they'll be pretty fired up. I mean, you hear AJ Brown talking about like, you know, when they're asking him what went wrong or what needs to be fixed, he's like, you guys will see this week. So I think this game's going to be heated Sunday night. I mean, this is as must see television as you could ever ask for. Um, but I will pick Dallas. I just think the way that offense has been going, they hit a second gear, and like you said, like it feels like they probably maybe had the more playmaker type players where, hey, you need a big play on defense right now. Like who's going to give it to you? Is it going to be a guy on Philly or is it going to be a guy on Dallas? If you're betting on that, I feel like you're going to put your money on Dallas at this point. So I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys, man, which, may be, the outside the arena jinx might have just given the Eagles a 40-0 win. So, I would love to know the numbers on like the true, because some of these games obviously are just like pick'ems, but like the true like 50-50s or like, close ones, what our record is when we're picking the same. I wish we kept track of it. Maybe we should start doing that going forward,
Yeah.
just to, especially with the outside the arena curse. Like, how effective is it? Are we just, maybe we're just prophets? Maybe we don't even realize that we're just prophets at this point. We just think it's a curse. But regardless, Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth will guide us through that one. Um, Moving on to Monday night, we got two games at the same time, which I think is really interesting, and I don't really know how to feel about it. I guess they're trying to do something cool with like the Manning cast, but it's like I don't really know, man. I mean, both these games kind of suck. Packers Giants, the first one, I'm gonna pick the Packers. We hated on Jordan Love. We picked on him when he was down, and man, we look like fools. I mean, he has been he looks like a stud. I mean, he's gone through some phases this year. Like he started out really hot, then kind of had a rough patch. Now is really hot. So I think, you know, I'll take a stance of I think the jury's still out on him. I still want to
Yeah.
see a little bit more. I think we're going to see him next year. Obviously, as Packers quarterback. So I think, with a little bit midway into the year next year, I feel like we'll have a better sense of like, okay, like Jordan Love's the guy, or like, okay, he's like they're probably going to move on. So, but he's been balling out. Definitely belongs in the league. I mean, no doubt. Whether that's a starter, fringe starter on a bad team, a backup, like this guy should be in the league for a while. Um, yeah, they're going to beat the Giants. I mean, the Giants have kind of had some Tommy DeVito magic, I guess you could say it, the last few weeks. You got the, Italians taking control. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Packers here.
Yeah, I'm gonna be fully honest. I thought Tyrod was gonna be the starter once he got healthy, and I was like, are the Giants gonna be weird here and win this game? But not. I don't see it with DeVito. Um, I just think the offense isn't gonna be able to do much, and the Giants defense ain't bad, so I think they'll keep it close. It'll probably
Yeah,
be a similar feel to like the Texans Jets type game where it's like not a blowout, but you kind of know what's gonna happen the whole time. So
yeah,
that's my prediction. Yeah, I think the Packers win this.
yeah. And last game, Titans at Dolphins. Uh, Titans coming off a loss to the Colts. I mean, Will Levis has not been too bad in his stint so far. He's had ups and downs for sure. Obviously, he's still super young in his career. Miami, Tyreek Hill on that road to 2K. That's who I'm going to pick, Miami. I'm not going to, get really too into it. I just think they're the better team. They still haven't really had a quality win this year, or win that you can be like, yeah, this proves that they're legit. Not that they're bad, obviously, but they still kind of, they need that big win for them just to, I think prove it to people that, hey, they can compete. But the AFC is a mess right now. Like, honestly, like, you know, just how dominant that offense can be, how explosive it can be. Like, you got to put them up there. Like I know they haven't had a good win this year. I know they've kind of faltered against the good teams, but like, I still think they can come out of the AFC just with how kind of wishy washy it's been with some of these teams this year. But I will pick them in this game. I think they're the better team. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I think this is a pretty easy Dolphins win. I will say about Levis, like last week was kind of the ideal result where he looked pretty good, but you still lost.
yeah,
So I'm starting to think like maybe that they can build up this offensive line, get it to be like mediocre, and get a better group of weapons, and then see what happens next year. Or like maybe be an interesting team, but I don't know. It just feels like they're kind of out of interesting things to talk about besides Levis. And
yeah,
you said it really well with the Dolphins. Like they haven't quite won the huge game, but it doesn't mean that they're not good. It
yeah,
might mean that they're not like a top three team, but they're
yeah,
still a contender, and certainly in the AFC they have a chance.
yeah.
So I'm gonna go with the Dolphins. Yeah.
It's crazy how the narrative. I mean, I feel like going into the year, everyone was like, the AFC is going to be this gauntlet, this
Yeah.
all-time conference, and now we're like, yeah, man, that AFC, like anyone can come out of there. It's a
Yeah.
mess, which is just, I mean, you look at the way some teams have played, the way injuries have fallen. I mean, obviously Burrow, Deshaun, Aaron Rodgers, to name a few in there. I mean, it's just crazy, man. The NFL is you never know what's going to happen, which is why it's so good, but also I mean, so heartbreaking for some fans, obviously this year. Um, And I think that will do it for this week's episode of Outside the Arena. Obviously, a lot that we talked about today. I mean, it's awesome. I love when sports are all going busy at the same time. Obviously, stay tuned. We'll have more coverage on the college football season as it ends and winds down. MLB free agency hopefully heats up. Maybe some big trades we get. I mean, hopefully, it kind of was one of the slower winter meetings in recent memory this week. So, especially when Shohei signs, we'll talk about it. And the NFL obviously still going strong, as well as the NBA in-season tournament champs. Next time we film the pod, right? When's
Yeah.
the final game?
Saturday.
Is it Saturday? Okay, so next week we'll talk about the champs of the NBA as well. But yeah, with that, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Check us out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify at Outside the Arena there. The social media is all below. And yeah, with that, we'll see you all next week on Outside the Arena.